Not my time. Pence pulls out of contest with Trump for White House campaign. We're sorry, this feature is currently unavailable. We're working to restore it. Please try again later. The Sydney Morning Herald. The Sydney Morning Herald. Sections. Network. Advertisement. World. North America. US votes 2024. Not my time. Pence pulls out of contest with Trump for White House campaign. By Jill Colvin. Save articles for later. Add articles to your saved list and come back to them anytime. Advertisement. New York. Former Vice President Mike Pence has dropped his bid for the Republican presidential nomination, ending his campaign for the White House after struggling to raise money and gain traction in the polls. It's become clear to me. This is not my time, Pence said at the Republican Jewish Coalition's annual gathering in Las Vegas. So after much prayer and deliberation, I have decided to suspend my campaign for president effective today. Former Vice President Mike Pence has withdrawn from the race to be the Republican candidate in the 2024 election. Credit, app. We always knew this would be an uphill battle, but I have no regrets, Pence went on to tell the friendly audience, which reacted with audible surprise to the announcement and gave him multiple standing ovations. Pence is the first major candidate to leave a race that has been dominated by his former boss turned rival, Donald Trump, and his struggles underscore just how much Trump has transformed the party. A former vice president would typically be seen as a formidable challenger in any primary, but Pence has struggled to find a base of support. He chose the Las Vegas event to announce his decision, in part so he could continue to voice his support for Israel and to make his case one last time as a candidate that the isolationist and populist tides that have swept the Republican Party pose a danger to its future and embolden the nation's enemies, according to two people close to Pence who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss his thinking. Pence's decision, more than 2 months before the Iowa caucuses that he had staked his campaign on, saves him from accumulating additional debt, as well as the embarrassment of potentially failing to qualify for the third Republican primary debate, on November 8, in Miami. Donald Trump and Mike Pence as president and vice president in April 2020. Credit, app. But his withdrawal is a huge blow for a politician who spent years biding his time as Trump's most loyal lieutenant, only to be scapegoated during their final days in office when Trump became convinced that Pence somehow had the power to overturn the results of the 2020 election and keep both men in office, a power Pence did not possess. While Pence averted a constitutional crisis by rejecting the scheme, he drew Trump's fury, as well as the wrath of many of Trump's supporters, who still believed his lies about the election and see Pence as a traitor. Advertisement. Among Trump critics, meanwhile, Pence was seen as an enabler who defended the former president at every turn and refused to criticize even Trump's most indefensible actions time and again. As a result, an Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs research from August found that the majority of U.S. adults, 57%, viewed Pence negatively, with only 28% having a positive view. Throughout his campaign, the former Indiana governor and congressman had insisted that while he was well known by voters, he was not known well, and set out to change that with an aggressive schedule that included numerous stops at diners and Pizza Ranch restaurants. Pence had been betting on Iowa, a state with a large white evangelical population that has a long history of elevating religious and socially conservative candidates such as former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee and former Pennsylvania Rick Santorum. Pence often campaigned with his wife, Karen, a Christian schoolteacher, and emphasized his hard-line views on issues such as abortion, which he opposes even in cases when a pregnancy is unviable. He repeatedly called on his fellow candidates to support a minimum 15-week national ban, and he pushed to ban drugs used as alternatives to surgical procedures. He tried to confront head-on his actions on January 6, 2021, explaining to voters over and over that he had done his constitutional duty that day, knowing full well the political consequences. It was a strategy his campaign and outside supporters believed would help defuse the issue and earn Pence the respect of a majority of Republicans, whom they were convinced did not agree with Trump's actions. But even in Iowa, Pence struggled to gain traction. He had an equally uphill climb raising money, despite years-long relationships with donors. Pence ended September with just $1.18 million United States dollars, $1.86 million, in the bank and $621,000 United States dollars in debt, according to his most recent campaign filing. That debt had grown in the weeks since, and adding to it would have taken Pence, who is not independently wealthy, years to pay off. The Associated Press first reported earlier this month that people close to Pence had begun to feel that remaining a candidate risked diminishing his long-term standing in the party, given Trump's dominating lead in the race for the 2024 nomination. While they said Pence could stick it out until the January 15 Iowa caucuses if he wanted, campaigning on a shoestring budget and accumulating debt, he would have to consider how that might affect his ability to remain a leading voice in the conservative movement, as he hopes. Some said that Hamas' attack on Israel in October, which pushed foreign policy to the forefront of the campaign, had provided Pence with a renewed sense of purpose given his warnings throughout the campaign against the growing tide of isolationism in the Republican Party. Pence had argued that he was the race's most experienced candidate and decried voices of appeasement among Republicans, arguing they had emboldened groups such as Hamas. Chris Christie, left. Mike Pence, Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy at the first Republican presidential debate, which was skipped by Donald Trump. Credit, Bloomberg. But ultimately, Pence concluded that he could still speak out on the issue without continuing the campaign. He did not immediately endorse any of his rivals, but continued to echo language he has used to criticize Trump. "I urge all my fellow Republicans here, give our country a Republican standard-bearer that will, as Lincoln said, appeal to the better angels of our nature," he said, "and not only lead us to victory, but lead our nation with civility." Trump did not acknowledge Pence's announcement in his own remarks at the same event. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who spoke immediately after Pence, also made no mention of Pence in his speech, but later praised him on social media as a principled man of faith who has worked tirelessly to advance the conservative cause. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, in contrast, began her speech by saying the country owed Pence a debt of gratitude. South Carolina Governor Tim Scott in a statement called him a man of integrity and deep conviction. Pence is expected to remain engaged, in part through Advancing American Freedom, the conservative think tank he founded after leaving the vice presidency, and that he envisions it as an alternative to the Heritage Foundation. He also has a book coming out next month that offers advice on balancing work and family. Pence's group is expected to continue to advocate for policies that he supported in his run, including pushing for more U.S. support for Ukraine's defense against the Russian invasion and proposed cuts to Social Security and Medicare to rein in the debt. Such ideas were once the bread and butter of Republican establishment orthodoxy, but have fallen out of favor as the party has embraced Trump's isolationist and populist views. App. Get a note direct from our foreign correspondents on what's making headlines around the world. Sign up for the weekly What in the World newsletter here. U.S. votes 2024. U.S. politics. Mike Pence. Donald Trump. Most viewed in world. From our partners. Advertisement. The Sydney Morning Herald. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, RSS. Copyright 2023.